Hello, entrepreneurs. What if you could manage your time in a way that actually gives you more focus, helps you with saying no with confidence, and really keeps you from burning out? Well, that's a powerful question that every entrepreneur wants answered, right? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into in today's conversation with entrepreneur Brenda Rigney. Brenda shares her simple but powerful philosophy of do less and impact more. And it just might change the way you think about running your business. So in this conversation, you're going to learn how she uses AI to enhance her business operations while keeping a simple mobile setup. It's quite fascinating. And how she grew her community from 250 to over 4,000 members using free summits and collaboration. You know, I'm all about collaboration. And how she nurtures that audience in a way that naturally leads to creating aligned offers and courses and programs. So if you're an entrepreneur, you're building a business from home, and you want to grow without overwhelm, you're really going to love and appreciate, and most of all, learn from this conversation with Brenda. Let's get into it. Hey, Brenda, really great to see you today. Welcome to my Entrepreneurs Who Work From Home series. I'm really excited that you're here.
Thanks, Gail. I'm excited to talk with you and hopefully reach out to your listeners. It'll be a great session. I'm excited.
Great. Yeah. So I'd love to start off with the question, what does a typical day look like for you working from home? How do you stay focused and structured, holding yourself accountable?
Yeah. Well, a typical day for me is I don't really like to kind of start my, external connection with the world until around like 10 o'clock my time. So I live on the west coast of Canada, Pacific Standard Time in Vancouver. So that, usually means I'm not really connecting with East Coast or Europe until either late in the day or late in the afternoon their time, because I like my mornings to myself. I like to kind of ease into things. I have a 12-year-old golden retriever. She likes to ease into things too. She's not like a puppy where she needs to be up at 5 a.m. doing stuff. And, I've kind of lived through that phase, having kids and doing school drop-offs and juggling work. Now it's like my time. So I kind of like to ease into it. It may mean a workout or a walk with the dog, a nice leisurely breakfast, getting in my protein intake, all these things that you see on Instagram you're supposed to do. And it's like, well, if I only have like 2 minutes to eat, how am I supposed to do this? So I like to do my meal prep. I like to have all the things around. I have a cup of, tea. I like my caffeine in the morning and herbal tea in the afternoon. And then just ease into my day. So that's kind of a typical thing.
Sounds like you're highly organized.
Just good at saying no. I learned how to do.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Good at saying no and, like learning about boundaries. If you asked me this question when I was 22, I would be like, what? What are you talking about? So I've had to learn about it, maybe through failure, maybe through mishaps in my life. But you get to a point where, okay, this pattern isn't working for you. And you need to make some adjustments. Right. But I would say if you asked me at 20, yes, I would have said, yes, I'm organized. I'm like organized at like all the things I need to say yes to. Now I just say no most of the time, and then it's pretty clear what I need to do.
That's such great advice for entrepreneurs working from home, learning to say no. It's a big one, actually.
Yes.
Yeah. So you have had a 27-year corporate career. You've served as CEO of million-dollar companies. What led you to step into this entrepreneurship, starting working from home?
So correction, COO. Chief Operating Officer, always working for CEOs, and just like letting them shine and me in the background, helping them be like the most effective. So I still kind of do that. Like as a coach, a school community host, it's more about like helping my members be successful in what they do. Pushing them forward, helping them, grow their businesses. And in turn, I grow my business. And so that's how I've always been in the service industry. And it's partly sort of family values. My grandparents are growing up. They owned a couple of apartment buildings in Vancouver. So it was, they'd have to take calls at midnight because there's a tenant had a flood or something and, they got to deal with it. So some of it was about troubleshooting, but a lot of it was about service. And my great-grandparents, they were alive until I was in my early 20s. and they had run grocery stores. They had like a small little corner store, and then they sold out to a big chain. But in northern Alberta. And so, there it was all about service because, they had serviced their clients through the Depression, through World War I, through World War II. It's like when times were tough and people couldn't pay their grocery bills sometimes. And, they figured things out and they made their communities prosper. So I kind of already had that sort of value system baked into me. And then right out of university, I worked for a very big retail company at the time when I was like 21, which is the Gap. And at that time, the Gap was expanding across international, obviously well entrenched in the US. So I learned a lot about sort of business and customer service from them. And I still refer back to even like through all my corporate journeys and working with different companies and even in my business today, I still go back to some of those like foundational values that I learned from my family, but also my time at the Gap.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm always interested to hear that, and I think it's good for other entrepreneurs to hear that too, because everybody comes from somewhere, and,
Hmm.
and I think the values that you've received from your, parents and grandparents, and then learning that as well along the way in your corporate world, and then being
Hmm.
now you have this wonderful wealth of service that you know what to do with in helping others. I think that's fantastic. Okay, so let's change this up a little.
Hmm.
Be a little bit about your workspace. Talk a little bit about how does that work for you in working from home and keeping all the balls in the air.
Yeah, so I used to be fairly structured in my workspace. Like when I worked in corporate, I would be like, here's my office or my work. Sometimes I would work, we'd have like open concepts, but I'd be very like sort of regimented about like what type of pens I liked. And, it's changed over the years. I'm still a big fan of graph paper. I will show for all the people that may
Yeah.
watch this on video. I love my graph paper. Yes, there are way more dynamic ways to be able to take notes and transcribe your notes, but I'm still kind of old school. My dad was an engineer, so we always had graph paper around the house. I had to do my homework on graph paper, and I just like still do graph paper. So that's just like one of the things you'll always find around my workspace. But I'm also now at this stage in life because I'm an empty nester. My girls are out of the house, they're away at university, they live in other parts of Canada. So I'm a digital nomad per se. Like I still have my dog, but I might be here in this space. I might also go away for 2 weeks and work someplace else. So I
Yeah.
have a very mobile workspace. I have a small
Yeah.
light for my laptop. I work off a laptop versus a big desktop. I try
Yeah.
and do a lot of things off of my phone. The biggest thing that I probably have is my graph note paper pad. That's probably like the biggest thing that's in my workspace area. And I also love like my cups of like my mugs with tea. Sometimes I will take them with me because maybe the Airbnb that I'm renting doesn't have good mugs. Like I need to have a good cup of tea. So
I love it. I love
yeah.
it that you're mobile and you can work from anywhere. And I think that's one of the areas that we love as being entrepreneurs. It is possible, especially in
Mhm.
today's world. Now, do you do anything like time management or how you structure your week or your planning? How does that work for you?
Yeah, I start with always beginning of the year. So I still work off of kind of a fiscal calendar cycle, just like remnants of my corporate days. So January 1 is the beginning of the new fiscal year for me. And usually sort of the last week in December, I go off somewhere. I don't know where. Like it could be someplace warm. It could be someplace really cold and with a great fireplace. And it's usually me and my dog, and I'm masterminding and I'm kind of wrapping up the year and then starting to make plans for the new year. And then I break those plans out quarterly. So I might have an idea about where I see myself, January 1st, this time next year, 2027 as an example. But I only work on the quarter that's coming up, right? So I'll work on January, February, March, and I only work on things that I can get done in that quarter. If I think it's going to be something that's going to take me 9 months to do, then I break it up into, well, what is it? What's phase one look like in first quarter, phase two and second quarter? So I never take on more than something that's going to take longer than 3 months to do. And I never take on anything like that is I guess 2 to 3 tasks at a time. So I might have 7 things that I want to get accomplished in a quarter. There may be some people on my team that I can delegate, or now with AI that I can, build an AI agent or, it's Claude skills, Claude co-work that I can like work off in that capacity. So that cuts my workload down. So I do incorporate a lot of AI into my work so that I can be more efficient. But yeah, I work off of a model of like do less and impact more. So
Ooh.
I'm not about generating multiple offers. I have one signature offer that I work off of,
Mhm.
and I continually look at how I can optimize it. That's probably my operations background. It was always like, where can you shave off like 2%?
Mhm.
I think a lot of times, like I kind of work off of a lean model from my corporate days, where it's like, hey, if every year we just optimize this system by 2%,
Mhm.
we'll see compounded value out of that versus like, oh, having to reinvent things, come up with new shiny things every year. I'm not into that. And rarely do I see, even from big business, like good success around it. Daily time management is definitely time blocks. My calendar is color coded. All the colors mean something: family, dog, work,
Yeah.
school, like whatever
Yeah.
that is. Even podcasts, summits, all those things I do. And then if I'm doing anything new, because I ran IT teams for a number of years when I was a COO. So we practiced Pomodoro method.
Oh, I love that. A
Love
big,
Pomodoro method, right? So it's like, it's really good for coders. And so I used to work with a lot of like coders and stuff, and we'd be new to tasks. We also practice Scrum. And so there's a lot of like, project management techniques that I use, but Pomodoro is probably like one of my favorite. So if I'm new to something, like right now, I'm like embedding myself in Claude Cowork and Claude Code. But I also know I'm 56 and I get brain fog. So it's like I set the timer because I will overwhelm myself, right? I will just put all these expectations on myself. No one's like bossing me around, and I will go for like hours on something and just exhaust my brain. And again, I could do that at 20 because the rebound was like that in a lot of cases, but now, no. So I set my clock for 20 minutes if it's a new task and I've never done it before, and then I go away, I go outside. You're nodding your head in approval, so that's a good thing. And then I come back, right? And then I clock it again for another 15, 20 minutes of work. And for me at this stage, it's not about like maximizing the time. Like when I was younger, I might be like 15 minutes to 30 minutes to 40 minutes using the technique properly. But now I'm just good, like, okay, a body of work, 15 to 20 minutes, then just take a break, Brenda.
oh,
It'll,
I couldn't agree with you more. In fact, that's where I'm at. I use that program, that Pomodoro method all the time myself.
I think it's one of like, it's one of the most understated, but most valuable ones that I've ever kind of sort of come across in my legacy of operational work. And I use it all the time. I always recommend it to my members because I still see us, and I think we're capable. As far as like midlife women, we've done it. We've like, I don't know, depending on where we are in stages of life, but maybe we have children, grandchildren, maybe now, partners, businesses, jobs, bosses, aging family members. Like we can juggle it all. We've all like, drank the Kool-Aid and we got that message, but we don't also need to.
Right, right. No,
And
it is amazing. It is so simple, yet it is so powerful when you use that method. Yeah.
yeah, so I use a combination of those things that I just mentioned. And then like we said at the very beginning of the call, I say no. Like that's
Yes.
probably like the last technique that I would have. It's like, it doesn't require a chart, like a Gantt chart or anything like that, or any type of sophisticated project management software. It's like I know what my vision is, my values, my goals. And
Yeah.
if someone asks me to do something and it's not in alignment with that, it's a no. And it's not like no, never, but no, thank you. And it's not a, abrupt no, hand to the screen or anything. It's like, here, I'll give you the context of it. And let's, I'm going to invite you into my vision, my values, and my goals. So the next time you make a request of me, you're going to know yourself, hey, would Brenda be open to doing this? So,
Great explanation of how to say no. And I think for entrepreneurs, we really need to understand that it's not a hard no, but it just, it's not, maybe it's not right now. No,
yeah.
not right now. Exactly. So I think for entrepreneurs who are watching this, that's a really good way to explain how to say no in
Yeah.
today's
And
world.
it's hard when you're starting up a business and it's about revenue and it's about cash flow and all those other things. And you learn the hard lessons. Like I'm not sitting here from a perfectionist seat saying, was there ever a client that asked me to do something and it wasn't aligned to my vision, values, and goals? And did I say yes because I wanted the cash? Sure. But, I just took note of that. Like if it was like at the end of 3 months of working with that client or the end of 6 months and I was feeling exhausted or depleted, I just have to be honest with myself
Yeah.
and be like, yeah, you took it for the money and that's fine. But you're sacrificing some other things along the way and there's a cost to all of that. So decide how you want to do it next.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And it's very true. Now, your school group is, or one of your school groups is School Scale Camp.
Mhm.
I'm a part of, which I really love.
Oh,
And
good.
you mentioned a lot about AI and technology and using Claude to have employees. How much of technology plays a big role in your work as an entrepreneur?
Well, I think it always has. Like my dad is a mechanical engineer. I like, when every kid was getting Atari for Christmas, like I got a Commodore 64. I had to like program my Space Invaders and my Pong game. Like I had to learn code in elementary school and high school. I mean, it sounds kind of boring, but
Yeah,
so I've always had this affinity to technology, and because my dad is an engineer, process improvement, optimization. So even in my corporate days as an operational executive, it was always people, process, technology. Those are kind of the three things. And so I'm not technology here is here to replace people or processes, but it's there to act in unison. And so when those three things are there, like it can be a really great like symbiotic relationship. Um, my feeling around AI is that in some cases, I mean, there's like, I'll say this quite bluntly, in the field of AI, there's definitely some sociopaths out there that don't think about people and process, and they're just like wild, wild west. But at
yeah,
the same time, if you can like approach it from a people process technology standpoint, then I think AI adds a huge amount of value to my business, but also to my members' business. And I think, I saw it really ramp up in 2025. Like
yeah.
2024 was kind of like, it's coming, what should we do? 2025 was like, oh my gosh, there's so much available. And it's like kid in a candy store. Now, I think 2026 for me and a lot of my members was, what do we like about 2025 that came out? What do we want to refine? What do we want to be more selective on in our choices and our usage?
Mhm.
Also, it gets expensive, all these subscriptions, right? So, and they want to upgrade, and then you got to get the max, and you got to get the pro, and you got to get this, and you got to get that. So, sample, try,
Mhm.
see some case studies. And that's why I also created my other community, which is the AI driven business community. And I run summits in there 3 times a year. And I bring in speakers that are experts in Lovable or Notion AI or Claude or, to talk about what are the options that are available. And yes, maybe your business needs to pivot in this direction, but do you need to do 20 of them? No, maybe just two or three.
Right.
Again, like learn to say no, cross the finish line on two or three things versus taking on 20 and always
Mhm.
feeling like you're left behind or caught off guard. Um, like I was having coffee with somebody today that's like, really into Notion and Claude. And I'm like, that's awesome. I don't really like Notion, but I respect people that do. And that's awesome. And I've tried it and it's not
Yeah.
for me. And there's other ways that I can like build my business, generate revenue, service my clients that fits
Yeah.
me. So I think like anything, if it's a new sweater that an influencer is talking about on Instagram or Claude Code, you as the consumer and the business owner get to choose.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I totally agree. I think that's great advice as well. Are there any other tech tools that you use besides AI that help you in your business?
my laptop. I'm a big I'm a big Apple fan, so like all of my hardware is definitely Apple products. Although my one of my daughters went Google Pixel on us one year, and that like kind of threw me for a loop. But like everything for sure is Apple products. Like I mentioned before, around my workspace, everything is fairly light, so I don't have like big things. Like I have everything very small that can like fit in a backpack on a train in Europe because I'm gonna be training from like, Paris to Antwerp, and I just need something that's going to be light and user friendly. But as far as like AI or platforms that I love to use, I still like ChatGPT. But Claude is just giving it a run for our money, and it's just like there's so many cool things on there. So I am learning more about Claude and just how to use it. I like Notebook LM, which is from Gemini or Google products, because Google is also the cornerstone of like how I worked. I used to be a Microsoft person just because of companies that I worked for had it. But then when I started taking over IT departments, I converted our organizations over to Google. So I'm a big Google fan and
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
use it in my own business. Um, and then School. Like school is my main technology. I mean, I would say, oh, Zoom, ConvertKit, like all these other platforms, but I've actually reduced a lot of my tech stack because I find Zoom or school has a lot of the tools that I need. Or I've learned to drop them just because of some of the methodologies that I've learned from other schoolers that have been like there longer than me, or Sam Ovens, one of the co-founders, like, hey, do you really need this? And I was like, no, I actually don't. So,
You
um,
know, it's
yeah,
amazing.
so that's where I've like reduced a lot of my tech stack.
Yeah, it is amazing what school can do and what you don't need anymore. You
Right.
know, yeah, it's great. Okay, let's talk a little bit about, I mean, because you must be a whiz at this, collaboration and communication. How do what partnerships or types of networking? And I know,
Mhm.
I mean, I'm just amazed how fabulous networking is on school. Myself, it's just been incredible for my series, actually.
Oh, that's awesome.
So many new fantastic people. But how does it work for you to grow your business in collaboration? What does that do for you?
Well, it's huge. It's like the linchpin to my entire business on school. So the big thing for me was back in 2025. I mean, I was running one of my communities, the Aligned AF community, and I was helping members in there understand about lead generation and how to drive traffic, not just to their school communities, but just to their business in general. And we were doing a lot of list building work, coming up with lead magnets, freebies, building out their sales funnels, doing all those fun things, tripwires, low ticket offers, everything. And then I was just like, okay, I was involved in a couple summits, bundles, live events with colleagues off of school. And so I said to my community, I'm like, well, let's actually just do a summit. Let's see what it's like. And so I built out the summit for them off of school using landing page, all those things, Thrive Cart, and we modeled it out and they were in it. They were all speakers in it. And I was like, well, this is great. And then I was just like, I wonder if you could do this on school. And knowing some of the things that school was coming up with as far as the tech horizon. So this was probably about this time last year, like sort of spring 2025. So then we decided to run our first summit on school. I started a separate community. I didn't want to do it in my existing one because it was going to be like this test case. And it's just like, we're just going to test it over here. And if it doesn't work, we'll just turn it off. It's no big deal. But I didn't want it to disrupt my existing community. So again, all the members in my community were speakers in the summit, brought in some other people. We did it on school. And I was just religious about not using anything else but school to do
Mhm,
it.
mhm,
And,
mhm.
school has affiliate, they have email, chat, like all the things, right? Courses, everything. So I was just like, okay, how could I do this? I brought in some other people that were like really strong at using school, the platform, and they're just like, yeah, you don't need this, do this. And so it was just like building it from nothing. And we brought in like 1,000 people in the span of like 2, 3 weeks. And I was like, okay, interesting. But the mistake that I made at the time was I didn't think about it after this event. I just built it for the event. I didn't
Yeah,
think about it that, oh, now I brought together 1,000 people all
no,
around this theme, this topic, and this could actually be a community. So I just went back to my community of
mhm,
like 250 people. And I'm like, okay, so that worked. Let's do some more summits. And they're like, yeah. But then I was like, well, what do I do with these 1,000 people over here? And some of them ended up joining my other like paid community. Some of them left because I didn't really do anything with them. I literally wasn't posting in the community after the summit. And I was like, well, that was a waste. What could I be doing differently about it? And then it was like, I could actually run a summit and create a community at the same time.
right.
And
And
so then we did it again in the fall of 2025 with the AI community, and we brought in 4,000 people in one day.
wow,
And that was also a little crazy, bringing in 4,000 people and opening your community and launching in one day. But
wow,
we did it. And yeah, that was game changer for us, because that it also brought in more monthly recurring revenue. We were doing, previous to that, we had more of our business off of school. And now we brought our business fully onto school. We were doing $10,000, $15,000 months. And then that just sort of changed everything. That was like changed everything for me. So now I just run summits in school.
yeah,
That's and the way it ties back into the collaboration piece is now it's not just uh, members in my community, like paid members in my community that are speakers, but now I'm reaching out to other school community owners. I joined their community. I'm like, you should be speaking in my summit. We collaborate that way. They're now starting summits in school, so I'm speaking in their summits. So we're sharing
right.
a lot of our warm audiences, and we're also bringing new people to school. and they're
Right.
staying on school.
Yeah.
So that's the big thing.
That is a big thing. And so you bring in like 4,000 people. Where does it go from there? What do you do when those 4,000 people come in?
Yeah, so I mean, I still needed to like, so this is like fall of 2025, and now we're spring of 26. So for the last 6 months, it's just been nurturing those people, understanding like what do they want, what do they need?
Yeah.
Because going back to like when I launched the AI community, I
Yeah.
didn't launch it because I'm like the expert, like the, the chief or whatever, the big cheese on AI. Like I'm not Sam Altman or anything. I was like, I'm using AI. I think more women-led businesses need to be using AI and more school community hosts need to be using AI. So I'm going to create a summit all around AI and just bring in all these AI experts that I know and love, the podcast people that I hear from, the YouTubers that I follow, and the school community hosts that are talking about AI in their own school communities. And I brought them all together and we had like 65 speakers and we just ran the summit for 3 days. And we brought in all these people. And again, I wasn't necessarily kept it really broad. I wasn't like, oh, you have to be new to AI. You have to like have never used ChatGPT. Like, no, it was like anybody and everybody that wants to talk about AI in business and school come into this summit and be a part of it. But after trying to make it a community after the summit, then it was just like, okay, well, who are you? What do you need? What's going
Yeah.
to keep you here? What should our next summit be about? If we were to create a paid offer, what would that be? Because up until that point, my paid offer was like an all access speaker guide, which is fine for like the time duration of the summit. But after that, like most people aren't going to necessarily buy it. So, what would be the next thing that you would buy? So, I started creating AI um, agents in ChatGPT and
Yeah.
selling those. Like, here's your AI team members to help you launch your school community or how to launch your next summit on school. I started creating courses all around summits, all around monetizing your AI offers. So it was just like whatever people were asking me that they needed, I just created.
It's
And
amazing, amazing source for people. You're amazing.
well, thank you. And but at the time it was also a little bit ad hoc. It was just like, okay, what do you need? You need vanilla ice cream? Great. I got vanilla. Here you go. You want chocolate? Here's chocolate. But it wasn't necessarily something that I was used to doing where it's like, oh, I have this huge launch, I have all these
Right.
courses. Like, so I was
Yeah.
basically, so it was a little scrappy and it honestly, physically a little bit exhausting because you're just constantly generating,
Comments are
yeah,
exhausting.
curating things.
Charge
So
for your
that's,
summit?
sorry?
You charge for your summit?
No, the summit's absolutely free.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where I would make revenue from would be the sponsors, the speakers.
Right.
So I would
Right.
charge for sponsorship, like if you want to do a live or a recorded session, an hour, half hour, you want me to advertise for you, like there's all these different parameters. So
Yeah.
then I would be generating up to six to $10,000 worth of sponsorship dollars that would go into advertising to
Yeah.
support the summit and the cost of the summit. And then, so we'd get revenue from that. And then we'd sell some of these low ticket offers like courses or AI agents that would bring in another 10 to 15,000. And then coming into spring this year, it was like, okay, are we ready now to offer something a bit more like a premium tier membership and be
Right.
able to do
Yeah.
that? And so then we just started masterminding that. But I think the big thing, so that's where we started the AI. And then we created the School Scale Camp because I was learning so much about school as
Yes.
I was doing this AI summit that you don't need to build everything before you launch your school community.
Yeah.
Have an idea, a theme, a topic that 4,000 people would
Hmm.
want to come in one day and be a part of. And
Hmm.
that's what we did. And then you just like ask them questions. What do you
Hmm.
want? What are your challenges? What do you love about AI? What do you don't like about it? What do you love about school? What don't you like about it? What would be like, the best thing ever if it landed on your plate right now? What would it be? And you just kept asking these questions and people just tell you. And then you build it. And then they just bring in more people and then you build that. And so that's when I decided then to launch the Scale School Camp or
Yeah.
the School Scale Camp community to teach people how to do it that way versus I have to build everything in the background and then go hustle to sell it.
Right. It's a brilliant, brilliant way that you're sharing, and I hope people are really listening. And we'll be putting all of the information, how to connect with you, in the description below for people who really are interested in attending one of your summits or learning more about your school program as well.
Amazing.
Now, let's talk a little bit about self-care. Let's talk a little bit about how does that work for you and work-life balance. You sound like a person who is very dedicated and knows exactly what you want, but sometimes you just have to, take that breath.
hmm
How does that work for
Yeah, I think self-care for me is it kind of goes back to the no piece that I was talking about earlier. And I'm not an expert at it yet, and it's always changing, I think, because again, I mentioned I'm 56. I'm in perimenopause, menopause, somewhere in that little mix right now. And so, there's just sometimes like daily, weekly things that pop up where you're like, oh, my body didn't react that way last week. My brain wasn't giving me these type of messages a month ago, and now it is.
you?
So I try not to pack, like my self-care goes back to my time management. I don't pack it in my days.
Yeah.
I know when, like, genuinely when my capacity hits a wall. And so my schedule is supporting that. And then,
Yeah.
I always check in sort of at the end of my day, how, what made me sort of have three questions. What did I love about this day? What did I learn this day? And what made me strong this day? And I do it at the end of the week too. And it's just kind of like my little bookend to the day and my bookend to the week.
Yep.
And it's just check in. It's not like, oh, I have to change my entire strategic plan for the next like 20 years of my life. It's just more, oh, I think I need to have a bit more protein tomorrow morning. Or
Yes.
um, maybe I need to not have 8:30 a.m. calls. Like there's a couple times, even in the last couple of weeks, where I'm like, I could do an 8:30 a.m. call. And then I realize, no, I can't. I'm way better at 10 o'clock. And it's just going to have to be that way. And sorry, I might disappoint a few community members. Like maybe there's another way I can get the content out or, showcase the replay a little longer, all those type of things, right? So I think my self-care is more about my time and the no piece. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, then it's like, I don't know, it's like eating right,
Yeah.
going for a pedicure yesterday with my daughter. Like, I have time to do all those other things. So self-care doesn't seem like um, a big chore.
I love that you check in at the end of the day and that you check in at the end of the week. I call that a micro habit. I think all entrepreneurs need to really pay attention to that
Yeah.
because it's part and parcel of where we could just dive right in and never stop, and we have to cut it off and we have to look at what happened and where we're going next and not let it consume us, I guess. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just something that like back in my corporate days, we had a consultant come in and I don't know, was running an icebreaker or something for our group, doing a team session and it was like, what did you love, learn, and made you strong today about this session that we went through? And I was like, that's good. That's just like really easy. Because sometimes you get these journaling prompts and they're like, you have to write an essay. And I'm like, I don't have time for that. I just need something that's going to like course correct right now.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's great. That's great. Now, as an entrepreneur, we're always learning ourselves. We always want to learn more. That's just something innate within us. So, how do you continue to grow as an entrepreneur? Do you take courses? Are there some books that you read that you'd recommend, podcasts, other things that you would?
Yeah. So I tend to there's, waves of things. I used to love reading. I need to get back into reading, but I tend to read more sort of trashy romance novels on airplanes as I'm going someplace. Like something that would be like, okay, by the time I land in London, like the book will be done. Like I don't want, and then I could just leave it on the plane for somebody else or something, or pass it on to the next passenger. So I don't like reading a lot of heavy stuff anymore. I love podcasts. I'm in love with the podcast called Pivot with Kara Fisher and Scott Galloway. So they
Okay.
always open up the call talking a little bit about news, government, politics. Then they go into tech and what's happening in the world of tech because Kara Swisher is like, she's from Wall Street Journal days writing about tech companies. And Scott Galloway's New York Times economics professor. And so the two of them sort of talk about where business is going, tech, etc. And then kind of they also do a little bit of a stock analysis. And I think that's something really important for women entrepreneurs is know where your money is going, like know how to make money and then also know where your money is going. So like I always question, and nothing against this if anyone's got this as a goal or does this in their business, but yes, you could try and generate $1 million business, or you could have a $250,000 business and invest some of your money and not operate with a big overhead with teams of people and tech stacks and all these things. And you can invest your money and let your money do some of the work. So I love listening to Pivot because they're always giving me ideas about investment opportunities or where I should be thinking about putting my money and my money with like who. And then I recently worked with some other people in school. I'm not really interested in like school games and that whole like growth channel, but just really understanding the nurturing, the collaboration element that we talked about earlier on school. I figured out traffic. That's not an issue for me. I figured out conversion as far as like where I want to go. But I feel that there's like a huge opportunity around the nurturing, the engagement, and the like the culture that you're building in your community. And it's not talked about enough, I think, on school. It's like always about like how to get people and how to make money. And I think there's this whole sandwich, yummy, gooey center around collaborations and engagement. So just as much as I love the area that I figured out around summits, I think there's other things to do. So I'm working with people around like how to do more in real life events. So I was just talking earlier, I was meeting with some schoolers just at a coffee shop here in Vancouver. And it was
Yeah.
just great to kind of like meet with people outside
Yeah.
of the screen, right? Like real life people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's your points are so well taken. Financial literacy point to me is so important for entrepreneurs because it's all about make money, make money, make money. Well, you can make money, but you really got to know what to do with the money once you make it.
Yeah. And also like where you're spending your money, who you're
Yeah.
investing your money with. And so I kind of like the conversation that Kira and Scott Galloway have every week on their podcast because it just gets you thinking,
Yeah.
value-based investments, all those things. So
Such great value for entrepreneurs who are listening today. Okay, if it would be one piece of advice or a key lesson that you'd like to share with fellow entrepreneurs working from home, what would it be?
I still always go back to your vision, values, and goals.
Hmm.
Vision planning sometimes or mission planning, whatever you want to call it, sometimes takes a bad rap. Like, oh, I did it at a retreat 5 years ago and it seemed really fun. Pull it out. See if you accomplish those things. What were your wishes, your intentions that you had for relationships in your life, your health, your wealth, your business, your career? Like, check in with those things. Because everything that we talked about today, goals that I have in my business, decision making, whether I do time blocking or not, it all comes back to my vision, values, and goals. So whenever I'm feeling tired, usually that's kind of like the barometer test for me. Like I'm just like physically or mentally tired. I just go back to my vision, values, and goals. And then I look at my calendar and it's
Hmm.
just like, okay, what did I say yes to? And what did I say no to that are in line with my vision, values, and goals? That's
Hmm.
always like, oh, you're tired because you said yes to 20 things that aren't in line with your vision, values, and goals. Like, oh, right. Yeah. Okay. So,
Alignment is so important. Keeping that alignment
yeah.
with those visions and values and goals is so important. I think that's incredible advice for entrepreneurs who are watching this today. Okay, you help entrepreneurs grow visibility and their audience. What would maybe be one simple thing that someone can start today to be seen more tomorrow?
Hmm. Get on school. Two-part
Yeah.
question, two-part answer. Get on school and be a good member on school.
Oh, really good. I like that. I like that a lot. So now that's a lead in for you to tell us more about your school group, your business, where people can connect with you, how
Mhm.
people can connect with you, who is your ideal client. Tell us a little bit more about where people can connect and find you.
Sure. Yeah. So I work with midlife women business owners on school that want to launch, grow, and scale their school community.
Mhm.
People ask me to do other things, and right now that's what I do. So, catch me in 8 years, maybe I'm doing something else because I'm always learning and growing, but this is what I'm doing right now, and it works for me. You can find me on YouTube under my first and last name, Brenda Rigney. And there I talk about how to launch, grow, and scale your school community. And then I have two communities on school that we talked about earlier, the SKOOL SCALE CAMP, which is all about launching, growing, and scaling your school community. And then the AI driven business community, which is all about how to stay relevant in your business with AI and how to monetize your AI offers on school. So it's kind of a two-part community there. And that's where people can find me. I'm not really on social media right now. I do have LinkedIn, I do have Instagram, but I've actually deactivated it for spring and summer. as partly a test, but also just what I said earlier. It's kind of like the self-care, what I want to say no to right now. And not necessarily no as in like my followers. It's not like not interested in connecting with them. It's more the consumption and just saying no to consuming
Too
from,
much information.
yeah,
And
from those two platforms.
yeah, we have overload on that. Making the right choices is important.
Yeah.
And we will put all of what you described with all those links in
Okay.
the description below, right?
Perfect. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's also like spring and summer in Vancouver, although I'm like going away a bit this summer, is amazing. This is like when I want to be outside. I don't want to be on my phone.
Yeah, and I think we need to pay attention to that as entrepreneurs because, being entrepreneurs, we love what we do. We like making our own decisions. We like not having anybody telling us what to do. And whenever we want to work, we can work. But at the same time, we really have to pay attention to all of that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Brenda, thanks so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it. You've just given us some wise words of wisdom for other entrepreneurs who are working from home.
Thanks, Gail. I really appreciate you having me on here. I hope this was beneficial for your listeners. And yeah, reach out if you have more questions.
Okay, there were so many gems in this conversation. I think you'd agree, but here's the three that really stood out for me. Her first one was just learning to say no and setting those boundaries. Gosh, Brenda shared that this is a skill that she developed over time. And I really think that's an important reminder for you and for me. With so many tools, so many platforms and opportunities coming at us today, especially with AI, it's just more important than ever to be intentional about what you say yes to and what you say no to. I'd love to hear from you on how are you setting boundaries in your business right now. This is important. So let me know in the comments below. Second gem that I loved from Brenda was her digital nomad approach. I just love the simplicity of it, being able to run your business from anywhere with just a laptop, your phone, and a clear plan. And it really speaks to building a business that supports your life, not the other way around. As Brenda says, she can be on a train traveling in Europe as long as she has her laptop, her phone, her backpack, and her graph paper, which I'm sure you learned about that as well from her. And lastly, her emphasis on aligning everything with your vision, values, and goals. When you're grounded in that, decision-making becomes clearer, and it's one of the most powerful ways to avoid burnout as an entrepreneur. Now, if you want to learn more from Brenda and how she builds and grows her communities, be sure to connect with her and check out her SKOOL communities. They're all listed in the description below. And I'll see you on the next interview.